Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever, found yourself wondering what the fundamental source code of the universe really is,
hmm
not just what happened after the Big Bang, but what actually kicked the whole process off, then you're definitely in the right place. Today, we are taking on a cosmic exploration into the philosophical architecture of existence itself.
A big topic.
A huge topic. We're focusing on this dynamic partnership of two foundational principles, Purusha and Prakriti.
Right.
This is really the story of the ultimate unmoving consciousness and then the dynamic creative power that brings everything we see, everything we touch into being.
And what's so fascinating about the sources we're looking at here is that we're not just dealing with, vague myths or stories.
No, not at all.
This is a step-by-step blueprint of creation. It lays out the precise sequence of how the formless supreme, how it descended through intention and structure until it became the material world we live in.
Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive is to trace that precise initial will that sparked this whole cascade of creation.
That first thought.
That first thought, and crucially, to follow the path of the five great elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas, that structure our entire physical reality, from pure spaciousness right down to the ground beneath our feet. Okay, so let's start at the absolute beginning, the ultimate foundation, Purusha.
hmm
Our sources are so insistent that he is not a being, not a thing that has a form or, defined attributes. He is rather the absolute beingness. What does that profound distinction tell us right away?
Well, it immediately places him completely outside the realm of creation itself. Purusha is defined by two attributes that really guarantee his singular status.
Oh,
Atantra and aprameya.
okay.
So atantra means he is absolutely independent, unbound. And aprameya means he is beyond measurement or any chain of causation. He just exists outside the framework of reason.
I find that aprameya concept, that's a tough one to wrap your head around.
It is.
If Purusha is beyond the framework of reason, beyond causation, doesn't that fundamentally mean that our whole quest, scientifically or even philosophically, to find a logical, measurable first cause is sort of misdirected from the start?
That's the intellectual friction the sources want us to feel.
Ah.
Think about it. If you could capture the cause of the ultimate source, then that source wouldn't be ultimate anymore.
Right. It would just become another effect.
It would become a consequence.
Yeah.
The only way for Purusha to maintain Swatantra, that absolute independence, is to remain aprameya. He's the witness, the foundation, but he's not the measurable object.
That sets up the perfect dichotomy for Prakriti then, his counterpart. If Purusha is this static, independent beingness, Prakriti has to be the dynamic principle that actually does something.
Exactly.
The sources call her the manifested power, the divine consort.
Precisely. She is the universal life force, the prana. You could think of Purusha as pure, still potential, and Prakriti is the dynamic field that's projected from that potential, filling the whole universe. She is energy in action.
And when we talk about her function as the root of matter, the sources also bring up that other name, pradhana.
Yes, that's a key detail, especially when you get into the Sankhya traditions. Pradhana defines Prakriti as the primary substance, the root matrix.
The source material.
She is the source material.
Yeah.
She not only generates the Pancha Mahabhutas, the five elements, but she also generates the deities and all material beings. She's the loom, really, upon which all of reality is woven.
Okay, so if pradhana is this infinite primary substance, how does that potential start taking form? It can't just jump from formless potential straight to a solid planet, right?
Exactly. The sources break this down. Existence first emerges in an unperceivable state, which is called paraprakriti.
Prakriti.
This is existence in its most subtle, invisible form. Some call it mahaprana, just pure, unbroken subtlety.
And then comes the big pivot, the descent into material reality, which is aparaprakriti. And this is the phase where creation starts operating under structured, predictable laws, the laws of matter. But this descent, this move from the subtle to the gross, it introduces a major problem for consciousness.
It introduces the veil of delusion, Maya. When the infinite, subtle paraprakriti manifests as the finite material aparaprakriti, a kind of separative covering is inherently introduced. This is the crucial consequence of manifestation.
And Maya isn't just like a passive error, like forgetting where you put your keys.
No, not at all.
The sources say it's an active, powerful force that conceals our true nature by deploying specific wiles. Let's spend a moment on this, because this is where the philosophy gets incredibly practical for anyone listening.
These wiles are the operational tools of illusion. They include things like separateness, duality, contrast, and inversion.
Okay, so separateness.
Separateness convinces the self-ego that it's a distinct, isolated unit, completely divorced from Purusha or the rest of the cosmos. I am me, and that's it.
And duality then builds right on top of that.
Ugh.
If I'm separate, then everything else becomes other. Right?
Exactly.
So you get duality, us versus them, good versus bad, pleasure versus pain. It's the constant tension that defines the material world.
And the most insidious wile, I think, is inversion. This is where avidya, or spiritual ignorance, really comes in. It diverts the ego outwardly towards material pleasures, these finite, temporary objects, and convinces the consciousness that permanent satisfaction can be found there.
So that outward search just reinforces the delusion.
Yes, and it causes the ego to turn away from its own foundation, from Purusha.
It's a complete self-sustaining feedback loop, and it's built right into the structure of the universe. The material world is born with a mechanism that inherently distracts us from the source that created it.
The intention isn't malicious, though. It's functional. To create multiplicity, you first have to create the illusion of separateness.
Which brings us right back to the spark itself. Why start this whole complicated process of creation and concealment? We have to go back to that divine will. What was the original thought?
The foundational quote really answers this, and it demonstrates the nature of Purusha's Swatantra will. So, kamayatha bahusham prajaya iti.
He wanted to multiply into many. That desire, that icha, that's the genesis of everything.
And that desire is precisely what we call Prakriti.
Ah.
She isn't a sidekick. She is the embodied will of Purusha. It's the ultimate paradox. The independent foundation spontaneously willed itself to become dependent and multiple.
So we can't ask why the desire arose, because that would bind the independent Purusha to logic.
You got it.
But we can see that the desire immediately sets the universe on a path to multiplicity.
Exactly. The desire for manifestation is the manifesting force. Once that will is there, Prakriti begins the complex activity of structured creation, moving from the subtle power of will down to solid form, using the 5 great elements as her building blocks.
Okay, now we are entering the heart of the blueprint, the sequence of the Panchamahabhutas. This isn't random, it's a step-by-step physical cascade.
It is the formal process of manifestation laid out in the Upanishads. The entire sequence is captured in a single line. Akasadvayo, Vayuranya, Agnarapa, Adviprithvi, Prithivya Oshtaya, Oshadibhuranam, Anat Purusha.
Wow.
The creation of the human being is the end point of this whole 7-stage elemental cascade.
Let's trace those first 5 crucial steps then, detailing how each element provides the necessary condition for the next one. We start with the immediate successor of the unmanifest, Akasha, or ether.
Akasha is the first Mahabhuta. It is pure spaciousness, the field of potential. It seems like a void, but it is packed with immense potential energy.
Right.
Having just come from the conscious will of Purusha, crucially, it serves as the ultimate substratum, the blank canvas, the container for everything that follows.
Yeah.
It allows things to be somewhere.
So if Akasha provides the space, what provides the life? What's the first movement in that void? That's where Vayu, air, or force, comes in.
Akashad Vayu. Exactly. Vayu, sometimes called Matarashvan, is the principle of motion. And it's not just breath, it's the fundamental force of expansion and contraction, the cosmic pulsation of prana.
Right.
It's what brings Chaitanya consciousness into the universe. Without Vayu, Akasha is just static. Vayu vitalizes the whole field.
Now we have space and we have movement. The next essential ingredient has to be transformation. Vairanya, from Vayu, Agni, fire, emerges.
Agni is the principle of transformation and radiance, Prakasha. Vayu generated motion, but Agni provides the heat and light necessary for anything to be visible and for creation to expand.
I see.
It's the engine that converts potential energy into kinetic energy, supporting the nourishment and further expansion of the life force that Vayu started. It gives clarity, it gives form.
Following fire, we get a necessary cooling and mixing element. Agnarapa. Agapa, or the waters, emerge from fire.
Water is essential here because it's the cohesive force. It's presided over by Varuna. Fire creates heat and separation, but water allows things to adhere, to flow, and to nurture.
Right.
It provides the necessary fluid environment to stabilize the transformations that Agni initiated. It is the solvent and the life giver. It's the foundation for growth.
And finally, we need structure, the solid density that holds everything together and provides shelter. Adva Prithvi, from the waters emerges Prithi, or earth, matter itself.
Prithvi is the principle of solidity, density, and resistance. It provides the final substratum for all forms of stability, mass, and structure. And it's important to understand, Earth isn't just inert Dirt.
This culminates.
It's the culmination. It's Akasha providing the container, Vayu providing the life principle, Agni providing the transforming heat, and water providing the cohesion, all resulting in the final stable material form.
What a complete cascade. So with the formation of Prithvi, the earth, that original will of Purusha, that desire for multiplicity has been fulfilled, we now have a material universe perfectly structured to house consciousness.
We do.
So Prakriti has successfully manifested the universe. She's dynamic, ever-changing, in contrast to the constancy of Purusha. But her role doesn't stop with the elements, does it?
Absolutely not. Prakriti continues her activities. She generates the primordial matter, padhana, the three gunas, the qualities of nature, all cosmic and material evolutions, and even the formation of the self-ego's conscious identity. She is the ultimate manager of the universe.
And yet, the sources are so insistent on this point. For all her power, she has no independent existence. She is entirely derivative.
She is the perfect reflection. The Shastra calls her Nityanupayini, always following the Supreme Purusha. She acts exactly as per the divine will. She's the dynamic reflection, making sure the system runs perfectly according to that initial blueprint.
This brings us back to that great paradox we touched on earlier. If Prakriti, this active creative power, is responsible for bringing the separative covering Maya or avidya into existence, how can she possibly be the force that removes it? How can the veil also be the path to realization?
This is the most profound insight in these texts, and it's one we really have to grapple with. Because Prakriti is the total power of Purusha, she holds both sides of the coin. She creates the delusion, but she is also the mechanism of release. When she's properly invoked and understood, the Markandeya Purana states that Prakriti becomes Vidya knowledge. That confers liberation. The quote is just beautiful. Sa vidya parama mukta hetuputta sanatani.
She is the eternal cause of supreme liberation.
Exactly.
So the force that makes us believe we are separate is also the knowledge that reminds us we are one.
Yes.
It suggests that liberation isn't about escaping Prakriti, but about fully understanding her operations. If we can see how Maya works, we stop being fooled by it.
Precisely. The moment of realization is when that whole dichotomy just dissolves. You recognize that the mechanism of illusion and the pathway to truth are two sides of the same single, inseparable force of Purusha's will.
What an incredible journey we've taken. I mean, we started with the ultimate unmoving beingness of Purusha, and we traced the process through his intentional, non-causal will Prakriti. We followed that structured descent through Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, and finally Prithvi, solid earth. Every single stage was required to fulfill that original desire for multiplicity.
And the key takeaway for you, listening to this, is that the force that creates the material delusion isn't something external that you need to destroy. It's something internal that needs to be understood. Prakriti is both the great illusionist, Maya, and the great teacher, Vidya.
So if the entire phenomenal world, including your own existence, came into being because of an absolute non-causal will to multiply, a divine desire to experience itself as many, what does it mean for you to be living proof of the fulfillment of that original foundational desire? We'll leave you with that thought for your own contemplation.